Okay, so we're gonna start this webinar.
Yeah, welcome new ones. You're muted, so we can't hear you, but if you want to write something or share something, you can raise your hand or write in the chat. What do you call it? Chat? In the chat?
Yeah.
In the chat?
Yeah. Okay, so this webinar is a fourth one of the series, and we dedicate it to primarily to people that work in the Dearmouring field, but also this applies to pretty much anybody that works with people. One more coming in. And it also applies to when you're a client. So you go and have a session with someone. This topic is relevant to both session givers and also people that receive a session. The topic is the importance of intimacy, in this case in the Dearmouring sessions. And to start it, we're going to spend some time defining what actually intimacy is and what it's not. So if we look at the word intimacy, all it really means, at least in my experience, and then Sanna is going to give her view of it, intimacy is ability to be close to either oneself or to someone else. That really is all it means, is ability to be connected deeply to oneself and connected to someone else. And we can be connected or intimate on a physical level. We can be intimate on an emotional level. We can also be intimate on a mental level. So definition in that sense is just the ability to be close to someone. Do you want to expand on that a little?
Yeah, I just felt the different facts of intimacy, and I also feel the intimacy, the spiritual intimacy, the intimacy with spirit. Basically, that was the only missing, or the only thing I wanted to add.
So let's then look at it a little bit deeper. So physical intimacy is feeling close to someone physically. Emotional intimacy refers to feeling someone, feeling oneself, and also feeling your client or feeling your therapist. Mental intimacy is closeness on a mental level, but basically I could like someone's mind, I could resonate with, like for example with Sanna, very often we share mental intimacy because we're close to our ideas are similar to each other. Now, the reason it's important to be, I'm going to make a little distinction between, in this case, the Dearmouring, and let's call it a normal traditional massage, where you walk into a healing center in a city and you book a massage and then you receive a massage. In those normal massage sessions, session givers are not really intimate with you. They kind of disconnect themselves from. In fact, they're trained, and I'm sure many of you are trained in some kind of massage or body work. Kind of intimacy is not really recommended because it's not PC, because they try to keep it as impersonal as possible. There is nothing wrong with that, except the effect of that kind of session doesn't really touch you deeply. It doesn't really allow. In the Dearmouring, we need to connect with our clients very deeply. We need to, and not only connect with them, but we need to inspire intimacy in our clients. And there are a number of ways, we're going to go into it in a minute. We need to inspire intimacy within our clients. The reason being is that the more client can be intimate, i.e. in touch with themselves, by default, it means the session is going to go much, much deeper. They're going to touch layers of the psyche, layers of the being that in everyday consciousness, in kind of, if you call it shallow existence in everyday life, they don't really touch upon, they don't really have contact with. And if you want to work on releasing deep emotional patterns, deep emotional behavioral patterns, it requires you to be as deeply connected to yourself as you can, because that's going to make sure that the result of the session is richer, fuller, deep experience in the body. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, I'm thinking as And also, of course, if it's not only about supporting the client to get into deeper intimacy with themselves, but it also requires that we have gone to deep intimacy with ourselves, so that we can be a cleaner and more pure channel to go there with them. So we keep on mentioning this in our trainings and workshops, that the deeper you can go in yourself, the deeper you can take others. And the more in acceptance and love and compassion you can be with all there is, the deeper they will go in themselves. And this is really where the magic happens. This is, I would say, one of the most important aspects in this work. And this is, I'm just adding on to why this is so important in the trainings we offer, because we cannot emphasize enough how important it is to do our own work, to be able to do a really fucking good work on other people. Because this is really, really super important. Yeah.
Do you have any questions or any kind of ideas that spring to mind from what we said so far? We'd like to hear. So either write it or raise your hand and we're going to unmute you and then you can talk.
When we say the word intimacy, what do you think of then? Do you immediately think of sexual intimacy, or do you think of what we've been speaking about, emotional
intimacy? What does intimacy mean to you?
Yeah.
How do you understand it? Yeah.
Christine.
For me, intimacy, more and more is, or deeper and deeper, it goes into differentiating also in my own intimacy. I could realize that I was working a lot on mental intimacy, emotional intimacy, and as you know, the last years I didn't really have a big chance to work into partnership, physical intimacy. And this brought me really within the last few days into a very deep differentiation and realization in the sense that it really became real what my part is still to go on into physical intimacy, but my own body. You know, right now, I'm not interested at all to get into sexual intimacy. The only thing I do now is dearmouring with a female. And because I realized that this is the safe space I can build myself. I trust her and I can build it myself. I'm able to build it myself for my own body, which for me seems very important to go through these steps before I even go into physical dearmouring, in the sense of sexual dearmouring with anybody else. You know, I would not dare. I would not. It's not even daring. It's not. It's a no-go in the situation I'm now. You know, because I have to explore more with my own body, my own intimacy. So that's where I stand now. You know, I can do it easily mentally or emotionally. There, I don't see a big problem anymore, and I can be very centered and very clear, and I'm aware where I'm like at the edge to, you know, be in danger to fall out of intimacy, and I'm not well enough trained in that to be aware of it and then tell myself, hey, stop, this is not my client's story, it's my story going on now. So I have to step back again into the intimacy, which means for me to be, you know, in somehow neutral state of being, you know.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you.
It's interesting. There's so many aspects of intimacy. So depending where the direction goes in the session. So if we work with, for example, when I work with sexual energy in a session, I can be different. I can be very intimate in a way, like very, very loving, close with my body, and love my client in a different way. And that can awake all kinds of things in them. But then I want to reflect it back to them. So there awakens a certain intimacy, a certain longing for intimacy, for example. Then it's important that I always reflect it back. And it's also so important that we differentiate. What is it? Differentiate intimacy in a session. So we have to be clear, what is this session about, for example. So when Dian works, it's never about the sexual or that kind of physical intimacy, but it's a deeply emotional intimacy. Of course, it's emotional intimacy when I work also, but it's on a different level.
Yeah, and can I add something?
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting for me now in this evolution is that I was really longing for sexual intimacy for a long time. I was longing for it. And now it's by going through these steps, and I'm really working a lot on myself. I do a lot of self-dearmoring in a very, in a very personal way, I think. And I realize the more I do that, the more I respect the longing, and I'm not stuck in the longing.
Yeah.
The more I get intimate with my own body. You know, like I have a very long phone call with a friend of mine last night, you know, and we were talking into real details energetically, you know. He's a very close friend. We can be very clear what we're talking about. And from yesterday to today, I realized that the energy field around my body is very important for me right now to be aware of, you know. And since I'm aware of that, I got a lot more intimate with my physical body. You know, it's a fine line. It's like and I think it's like wonder after wonder happening, you know, to be aware of these fine lines. And
exactly. And this is why it's so important with this work, and the beauty of this work also, that we can bring and breathe through these different layers and meet these different layers and allow all these layers and reflect all these layers of intimacy.
And you know what I loved was can I add something?
Yeah, and then we got to stop these conversations. We move on. Yeah.
That what I wanted to say. That's what I also loved in Spain, to watch the two of you, because both of you have your authentic way of intimacy. And I love that, you know. It's not just learned out of a book, and, you know, you're living it. And that's really, thank you for showing us this.
Thank you, Christina.
Okay, we're going to move the conversation forward. Thank you. So the question was asked by Agatha. Alison would love to hear more ways of building, strengthening this deep connection and space within self.
Cool.
You know, right now I'm connecting with myself. I'm building intimacy with myself in this moment. What that requires me to do is to be very honest and transparent with how do I feel? Do I dare to feel myself? And how deeply do I dare to feel myself? This goes when I was pausing, when I was connecting with myself. I usually start from my physical body. So I become intimate as deeply as I can, for example, with my bum touching the chair, with the clothes touching my skin. I need to feel it. I need to slow down, and I need to tune in to how do I feel. And I need to start accepting who I am, how I feel, what I think, and not shying away and not putting blinkers on. It requires courage to be intimate with oneself and with someone else. It requires courage. It requires depth of understanding of what it takes to be really alive, to really be connected with life. Because this really is intimacy, it's connection with life, you know? And this goes on all levels of intimacy. I need to be able to sensitize my hands, my skin, my senses, fine-tune them, hone it in, spend time connecting with myself. And this is one of the reasons that before every session, if you watch my videos in Sanna also, and we teach it in the courses, before we start doing the session giver actually spends some time with themselves. They're just sitting next to a client, and preferably even 20 minutes, half an hour before the session, I meditate, I slow down, I connect with myself, I recognize myself, I get to see how I feel, what I think, where am I at. This is all bringing me closer to my center, which by default is intimacy. Once I sensitize my touch, for example, my hand, my fingers, you can practice it just by touching yourself and feeling like minute, tiny temperature differences, little twitches, little tingles, little anything you can sense, but it has to be smaller, smaller, smaller. So you start from the gross sensation, so blood, hand, and then the more you stop, the more you slow down, the more you start noticing things that you might not have noticed 2 minutes ago, because you give yourself time and you breathe and you relax your breath, you slow down your breath. You start getting in touch with subtler levels of being, which is more and more intimate, closer to the core, closer to the center. Respectively, so then I connected with myself. And in the session, the way I inspire intimacy in clients, there are many ways. There is energetic, so from my body to their body, directly skin to skin, I allow them to be as close to themselves as I'm close to myself. I don't know if that makes any sense, but transferring the feeling of this minute, tiny awareness about myself that I have about myself into the client. It's almost like without words, I give them permission and I invite them to do the same within their own body. I do it with my eyes. I do it with the energy that comes out of my eyes, the way I look at them, the way I talk to them, the type of voice that I use. It's all connected. It all has massive impact on how quickly and how deep they drop into themselves, into their intimacy. And then every time, for example, within a session where I notice that the client is either rejecting or pushing back or holding back or basically not being intimate, not being deep with themselves, then it's my job to invite them, to tell them, slow down, take a breath, maybe open your eyes, look at me. And then the softness in my eyes, the depth in my eyes, the depth of acceptance in myself is immediately transferred to the client energetically. They feel it instantly and then brings them down. So do you have anything to add to how to inspire intimacy in others?
Yeah, how to inspire others. Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling what you're saying now, so I get some insight. Yeah, yeah, definitely connect. And then also with oneself, slowing down and allow all what is moving on the inside to be felt, not run away from anything, to really look into oneself, feel into oneself. And then, of course, if you're curious to become more intimate with yourself, is also to see what is the fears around intimacy.
Yes.
You know, where am I hindering myself and why am I hindering myself? And of course, then we can look into being intimate in relationship, or we don't want to have a relationship, or intimate with other people, opening up to our emotions, show ourselves. what are the limitations there? What are we afraid of? Why are we afraid of being intimate? And that often is we're afraid of being left, or we're afraid of losing love, for example. So if, instead of even taking the chance of meeting love, meeting as love, we run away from love. Even though there is that's the biggest longing of the human heart. We want to be intimate. Our spirit, our hearts yearn for intimacy. And there, the practice there is to get, okay, I might be scared. I might be really scared of meeting myself here, or showing myself for another being here, or express my emotions for another being. But I'm going to choose to do it. I'm going to choose to know that I still will be okay, even though I express this. And if we want to become more intimate, it requires that we take a risk.
Yes.
It requires, and most often, like if we are choosing to open ourselves around a therapist, or in maybe a group setting or something where we know we are more accepted in that will help us to create that inner safety, that will help us to cultivate the trust, the intimacy with ourselves. And it takes time, it's layer by layer. And like Dean says, it's like the same thing with the hand. It's like first we meet the more rough emotions, or the rough vibrations in our body, and then we go deeper, and we go deeper, and we go deeper, and we go deeper, until we become so intimate with life that we don't want to be anywhere else. And that was really inspiring when you spoke about it. I could feel the yumminess of being very, very intimate on subtle levels with everything that is. Like, there is nothing to fear, really. It hurts sometimes to be a human being, but it
requires courage.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to go through the questions because they're kind of coming in fast and furious, so and they're good ones. So all of it saying, I would like to hear a reflection, intimacy versus intensity in the session. So I have a tendency to work to break through with clients that I can't feel so much energetically. So very, very different thing. Like intimacy has absolutely nothing to do with intensity. Intensity, I can be very intense, but not intimate. Intense is just presence of a lot of energy. That's all it is. Intensity is presence of a lot of energy. Intimacy is a completely different field. They're not even, you cannot verse one against the other because it's like comparing apples and pears, totally two different things. So I hope that clears it up for you. Olaf, where are you? Can I see you?
Who asked?
Olaf, does that answer your question, or do you need to speak about it?
I think I know, because I've seen Olaf work a little bit.
Let me unmute him one sec.
Can I add to?
Yeah, talk, Sanna. I'd like to hear your reflection.
Talk, Sanna. Yeah, so I know you're great working very intensely, like really intensely. You have this shamanic exorcism power going on. And that can be, I can relate to that sometimes I believe or feel that some clients need to be more shaken and stirred to awake more or come in contact. And that can be a way for them to become more intimate. What I also learned is that sometimes to be just skip the intensity and go straight for intimacy in a very soft, gentle, very gentle, still way. Then you can touch these very, very delicate levels.
Yes.
And but it's not everybody who are receptive to that. So sometimes it requires more of intense intimacy, even though I agree with Diane, it's two different things. But sometimes more intensity is needed to reach those deeper points. But I also encourage the exploration of really connect with spirit in yourself, with heart, with love, and then transmit that and see what happens. Are you following?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that can be, because you're so good in intense work, and it's incredible. And just as a curious exploration, see what happens, like Diane did, just really feel the core of your being and see what happens when you transmit that through words, a hand, an eye.
Yeah. Can I have one quick reflection?
Of course.
It's just because I work with two men now, and it's like when I start real soft, it's like I can't go deep enough to really get things moving. It's like a brick wall, and then I want to go deep with the breathing, and then get things moving, but then I get sort of like, I really feel that their bodies need so much tenderness as well. So for me, it's a hard balance to see, am I overdoing it? Am I like pushing it too hard? Or, you know, I just wanted to hear your reflections.
Yeah.
It's really helpful. So.
Yeah, I feel that sometimes we need to go through the pain body first, because many are so disconnected from the body, so they don't even feel his head feet. You know? So you're first going to get them into the body with intensity, and alternate and play and be, you know, stay with a bit of patience just to see what happens.
Yes.
If it doesn't, like an emotion comes immediately or an expression comes, or so. Yeah.
I mean, essentially, what I'd like to kind of share with you, and I'm not sure if that came clear, is intensity can also be very intimate, or there can be a lot of intimacy in intense session or intense meeting. But there can also be not. You can be totally disconnected and still be very intense. Yeah. So one thing you could do is, because I know you're very connected to your emotional body, you're very tuned into yourself. What you could do is look at the guy intensely with a lot of love, with a lot of intimacy within yourself. So by default, the way you're going to look at him is like you're going to look at him so deeply, you're going to penetrate him so deeply with your eyes, with your softness, with your intense kind of presence, but intimate, connected to yourself. And immediately you will connect him to himself. So the result of that, if somebody is so closed off, so the eye gazing, or we call it soul gazing, can crack them open, because you will almost like force them, you will de-armor them with your eyes. Try it. Like, you can work on it physically hard, but you can also just like for 5 minutes, just look at him in the eye and just keep holding his gaze. And then he's going to have a tendency to withdraw, and just bring him back and say, hey, just look at me, stay with me. And then softness, but piercing, like intensely piercing. And that's intimacy with intensity. But those two, intimacy and intensity, they're not the same and nowhere near similar. Very different concepts. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Great. We're going to move on. Thank you, brother.
So can we achieve physical intimacy independently from emotional?
Good question.
It's a good question. And yes, we can.
I mean, debate that. I mean, go on. You go first.
Yeah, so I mean, if somebody, I think physical intimacy, then I would think about a sexual meeting, for example. And people can definitely connect if they are blocking themselves, connect on a physical level without engaging emotionally.
I mean, my answer to this would be, at the end of the day, it's all one. You can't be, I mean, we kind of dissected intimacy into physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, but actually it's all in one. You're either intimate or you're not. So it's debatable whether you can be connected intimately physically without being intimately emotionally, because I would question how deeply are you intimate physically, because as soon as I touch you, it's not just skin. My emotional body is alive. My mental body is present in my hand. So when I touch you, if I'm intimate with myself, by default, I'm already going deeper than the skin. I'm already penetrating you much deeper, which already is getting into emotional intimacy, closeness, being close to. So in my mind, I would say, as a holistic picture of connection, no, you cannot separate it. But if I separate it into, can I be physically intimate? Yes, you can. I mean, maybe we could say, so this is like a love-making versus fucking. So you can meet a stranger in a pub and have a quick sex. Were you physically intimate? Well, if you call that intimacy, then yes, you can. But actually, it's a holistic picture that I'm looking at. And the way we teach Dearmouring, the way we come from, is holistic approach. It's all one. You cannot separate. The reason we're separating it in this conversation, like physical, emotional, mental, taram, it's to give our mind some kind of a map, some kind of understanding of what we're actually talking about. But in reality, in real life, it's all one. This is my answer to it.
But I'm also thinking, just my when it comes to the physical, like we say with a regular massage, they are disconnecting emotionally. So there's still a physical intimacy, but an emotional disconnection.
Yeah,
because it's a control over emotion.
I guess because I'm being perfectionist and I'm interested in depth and holistic picture.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I would say no, but actually, I guess yes and no are the answer.
Really. But when it comes to our, like how we teach it, for example, then it's not the separation. That it's always, you're always emotionally involved with clients, and as a therapist, you're always emotionally involved, for sure.
So another question is saying, curious how to feel safe to allow oneself to go there and hold space for oneself, and if needed to have an external person to hold that for you. Yes, it's a risk. How to hold it? I mean, Sanna, I think, already answered it. It's courage.
Yeah, it's the courage, and that it's the courage, the acknowledgement first, like now, okay, wow, I'm afraid. And then it's the courage to go there, and then allowance to stay there. And once, because really, what is there to lose? What is there to lose? Let me see who asked Alison. Where are you, Alison? Alison? There she is.
Alison, can you hear us? Hello, Alison.
Okay, I can elaborate on it.
Yeah.
So anyway, what is there to lose? Really, this is where I mean, of course we can be hurt and it really hurts, but if we really want to be committed to live a full and fulfilled life, we want to be intimate. It will hurt to be human. It will hurt to be alive. But the more courageous we are to be intimate with ourselves, it won't hurt as much. You know, it might sound hard, but in the end, it doesn't gonna stick as much once we learn to flush the emotions through, to acknowledge, to feel it. Then we rather be. So for me, example, I love to feel. I'm a highly sensible being. So if I would have a period where I'm sensitive, thanks. So if I would be disconnected, I would feel dead. And that's not what I want. I rather feel anger and sadness and joy. And I want to feel all of it. And I want to say yes to all of it, because that's what's the point of being alive if you're not being alive? and the thing is, the more we work with ourselves, in my understanding, we will feel more. The more clear we become, we will feel more, but we won't get hooked onto it in the same way. We will be better to conduct and feel the emotions, but we will feel them, and we will feel them strongly and more strong.
I got a little bit stuck on Alison's question where she says, curious how to feel safe, to allow how to feel safe. I mean, Sanna already explained that. I'm just going to maybe say it in a different way. Basically, if you don't feel safe, there's fear, there's pure fear. So the best way to deal with fear is to lean into it, to touch it, to feel it a little bit without jumping head in so you don't burn yourself. If you burn yourself, that can be overwhelming. It can have a negative result, if you like, but little by little, step by step. So safety in going deep is something that has to be practiced. It has to be trained. You have to prove to yourself that even though it was fearful, you didn't die. Even though it was fearful, your heart is still beating at the end of it. Even though it's fearful, you still, at the end of it, you are richer, fuller, deeper, you're more. So it's a gradual process of how to feel safe, comes with practice. I think this is really the only way how to feel safe, is to try and error, try it and test it and see that you survive it. Then take another little step and you lean into fear again, and then again, and then again. And little by little, you will naturally realize that actually you feel safe, at least to the area that you're working with. Another question was here from Agatha. What if someone avoids this intimacy? I mean, the client, if they shy away from contact with the eyes. I'm just going to unmute Agatha for a second. So different ways, and this depends on what kind of therapist you are and what are you committed to. In my sessions, I energetically, virtually demand intimacy. I will not waste my time with someone who is not willing to come in at a deep level. So from the very moment that I connect with my client, I tell them this is going to be very personal. I'm going to take you as deeply as I can inside yourself. And if you're not willing to go there, then please don't work with me. Go and work with someone who is willing to work shallow. And then it's a skill of a therapist to invite, to lure your client deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into intimacy, into themselves. Every time you see them fearful or mistrusting, you need to slow down. At least I slow down. And I reassure them, again, with my eyes, with the tone of voice, with the type of my touch. I start reparenting them, perhaps. I start touching them like a parent would touch a child, with that kind of energy. I would tell them there is nothing to be afraid. Also, a large part of our work in the sessions that we teach and offer is empowerment of the person, empowerment of the client, which means that you train them little by little to trust, to actually go there. And so every time they stumble, you can hold them. You deal with them basically like you deal with a scared child. You know, if they're not willing to go there after all of that, then I would stop a session and say, hey, this is Dearmouring. This is not a shallow massage. If you're not willing to go there for whatever reason, that's okay. Let's stop the session and maybe have a coffee, have a chat, and maybe come back when you're ready. But this is the skill of a therapist. This is where you need to learn how to talk, how to use your voice, how to use your eyes, how to use your energetic body to transfer this safety, to create a bubble, space holding bubble of safety around your client. Does that answer your question, Agatha?
Yes, I think it answered it. I think maybe it does. Recently, I had a client, she was abused physically quite a lot.
Can you turn your volume up a little bit? We can't hear you well, or maybe kind of speak louder.
Okay, one second. Where is it? Okay, I have to find it in the settings.
Yeah. There's other ways. I'm just thinking when it comes to if a client avoids intimacy, what depends on what level we choose to work from also. So for example, what it seems that my body can be gifted with is that I open to spirit and I allow, I allow life to speak through me or love to speak through me. And sometimes when I just speak from a pure heart where I want to meet them, it's enough to crack them.
So can you hear? Can you hear now?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a client who was really abused by her father and her partner, and we're taking things really slowly. But I noticed that she has kind of ADHD kind of behavior, so she cannot focus quite long on her body or her feelings. When I was doing session at her house, she was laying there focusing on the pain, on her feelings, and then she started to tell me, oh, look at my cats, they are so relaxed, I would like to be so relaxed. And I'm like, sometimes I think I'm too intense for her, but when I take it slow, I have an impression that maybe I'm taking it too slow, that she's not paying too much, enough attention to what she's doing. And I went through the phase with my ego, wanted the session to go better or faster, and I gave up on it. So now it's kind of, I hope, ego cleared, but I still I'm not sure how to approach her.
I have had a couple of clients that has potentially similar issue, and in the end, I've just said I cannot work with them because if they are all the time talking and moving and I try and I know I know I can do a good work with all humbleness, you know, but then it also comes to a time where I feel like, hey, I can't do this. Like it's a waste of time. Not waste, no, I wouldn't say waste of time, it's not the right word, but I'm not capable of holding this space. I'm not capable of meeting with this client. I'm not capable of supporting this person to grow in the way I would like to. So if I feel after a few sessions, let's say give it 4 or 5 sessions, and if you feel there is no change, just be humble to that, and okay, just doesn't work.
Well,
some people just have some people are either, if they have a mental disorder or they're hard to get into the body, it comes times where it's just like nothing goes in. There's nothing going in. So it's only so much I can do.
Okay, thank you. I will try some more times with her with regards to what Dan said seconds before.
Yes, maybe try what I thought of is you could try some more intense something where she can focus on all the time. So, for example, the breath pattern. You know, the session where we press on the points and they breathe. So you keep on breathing. So she's having to focus on something, and there's like movement in it. So there is not space for the mind to run away.
I did that, and we had to stop like mid length because she was like, "Oh, my throat is so dry, and can we stop?" And well, she's the client with whom I have to go really gently. So okay. But thank you for your input in that. Thank you.
Thank you. She's in avoidance. Yeah, that's what I feel too. But that's the thing, like, when it comes to the avoidance piece, that is sometimes I'm like Diane says, I only do so much. If I feel a person is constantly in avoidance, I just step back.
But I have to say, like, this is the way, this is truth. But from my personal perspective, because I'm so committed to getting through to people, and I've spent most of my adult life training, in fact, all of my adult life in training and getting through to the people, I always believe, try different way, find a way to get to them, find a way, maybe do some physical releasing, like shaking. You know, if HDAD, they have a lot of a lot of energy, you know, maybe get that out of the system first. Maybe get them to breathe a little faster. Maybe get them to shout. Maybe get them to shake the body for 10 minutes and then lie down and then see how they feel. Maybe have a talk therapy with them. Maybe talk to them. Find a way to get to them. But as Sanna said, in the end of the day, if after a few sessions you really see there is no movement, then say, hey, I don't think I'm the right person to work with you. But I really feel, and I do always try my best to get to them, train in many different ways of communication, train in many different ways of using your body, your voice, your energy to get to them, you know. So yeah.
If I may ask one more question, it's how to approach client who tells you that okay, he was or she was abused, and then usually she takes things really with like male energy and wants to do the best, but this time she decided that she wants to take it slowly, and it's really hard to let her do it slowly, and in the same time it's intense work, as you said. So to have this balance between this intense work and taking it slowly and not letting her kind of slack off, because sometimes I feel like she's slacking. She's like
I mean, the thing with
my impression was
the topic of this webinar is intimacy. So I would suggest become really intimate with her. If somebody is slacking, it means they're not intimate, they're shallow. And force intimacy on her. Every time she wants to go shallow, you don't have to go intensely physically. You can just intensely pierce her with your presence, with your eyes. Look at her deeply into the eyes and say, listen, you paid the money, you had a rough experience. Are you willing to live with this? how committed are you? Like really get into her, like force her to become intimate with herself.
To be real.
Yeah, to be real. And this will de-armor that part of it, that part of the shell. And then, I mean, it depends how committed she is to the work. It depends how committed you are to work with her. But you can also, after you've kind of forced intimacy on her, you can say, look, I cannot help you. And in fact, nobody will be able to help you if you stay as closed and shallow as you are. Are you really willing to do that? Is your life worth living if you are like that? Like present it in a way that she will just have to see the picture that unless she actually opens up, she will stay like this until she dies. And that has a very, very big effect on people say, okay, no more, I'm willing to go in there, at least try. And then baby step, and the baby step, and the baby step. Anyway, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right. Okay.
And I just feel that when you say that, and I tune into the beauty of this work, so we work a bit differently, and since I work more with sensual and sexual energy and in a different intimate way, it's also what people long for. Most of us long for this connection. And it's such a precious gift to be able to hold that space for another being to come through. It's really, really humbling. It's really humbling to be able to love. It's like, what do you do for work? What do you do for a living? I love. It's like, what a gift. I live to love. And this is really like, we can complicate things so much. We can use this and this techniques and back bends and jump. It really comes back to that precious love and acceptance, like deep, raw intimacy.
Thank you, Agatha.
Yeah.
Okay, we have about 10 minutes left, and we would like to have any more questions or observations or your understanding of the subject. Anybody can either raise the hand or type in they would like to talk, and we unmute you.
I like that. Is this helpful for you? Does it give you some good juice? Still heads. Okay, thank you.
Where is Dominique? Dominique is asking, I'm going to unmute you, Dominique. Dominique is asking how to create intimacy in a group of 2 or 3 or more. So what do you mean? In what kind of setting?
When you are teaching,
Uh-huh.
you have to bring people into that state, but how do you like keep that for many person at the same time?
It basically is the same how we hold this webinar right now. There are, whatever, 26 of you here, 24. And personally for me, I demand intimacy. I'm not willing to waste my time. You do the same. So basically when you work with a group, the trick is to connect with one. If you connect with one person in a group, intimately connect, automatically you're connected to everybody else. This is a magic of group dynamic. So the group is an organism that has its own personality, its own form, and it responds to, in this case, the one who is facilitating. Your job as a facilitator, like at first, if you look at like you're facilitating, there's a group of people, if you're disconnected from it, it feels like unpenetrated wall of all these eyes are looking at you and what are you going to do now? All you have to do as a facilitator is first of all, take a breath within yourself, look at someone, one person, and connect on a human level. As soon as you make that, it's almost like with the scissors, you cut this invisible barrier between the group and you. As soon as you make connection with one, it's a human response. Everybody has it, emotional bodies, we're all connected, interlinked. You know, group is one, it has one personality, one identity. As soon as you're connected to one, you're connected to the whole thing.
Okay.
Try.
Well, thank you.
And also be in a state of allowance and compassion, to be in all-inclusive. So I love to be all-inclusive so people feel safe to express whatever is there. And really provide such space in yourself to be curious and allowing.
I mean, this is the magical space holding, you know.
It takes time.
It takes time and it's a skill, you know. But also you need to be okay with absolutely everything. as a facilitator in a group, you need to be able to be okay with absolutely anything. If somebody is being cold, if somebody is being judgmental, if somebody kind of starts projecting shit on you, if somebody is being uncooperative, if somebody goes into fierce anger, fierce blame, intense crying, you just have to be cool as a cucumber. And the only way to do it is to actually be. So you have to go through those dynamics yourself as a facilitator in your private life. You need to be trained. Drink some mama ayahuasca, go and do some vipassana, go and do some really intense personal work. All of that prepares you, some mama papa therapy, all of that prepares you to be totally okay with anything that happens in the space around you. And the more the group can feel it, the more they trust and open up and relax.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
And a good way is always to you do some group exercises to build a connection with the group. They can conversate with each other, some emotional engagement, some sharing.
Yeah, there are many ways to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe Dominic, come to one of our trainings. You will pick up a lot about this subject from those.
Yep.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So a few more minutes left.
It's wonderful. Great, Alison. Thank you.
Let's have another maybe one question, two questions, and then we're gonna say goodbye. So who would like to speak? Either raise your hand or type in.
What other juices to say about
Nothing to add? Okay. Which other experience you should guess for us to go deeper?
You mentioned ayahuasca. Okay.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca, vipassana, primal therapy.
Dearmouring training. Seriously, I mean, if you want to go deep, hey, come.
Yeah.
We guarantee you're going to have that. Which other experience? I mean, basically, my journey was I did quite a lot of vipassanas. I set, I think, 8, and then I set another 25 days. Any kind of shamanic practice is very good. I also did biodanza. I mean, actually, for you people who wish to go deeper into intimacy within yourself and train yourself in intimacy, I really recommend biodanza. It's a most wonderful way, very safe, and it will get you intimate and confronted within seconds. So that's a very good way to deepen your intimacy. Another practice that I did is, actually I did a lot of landmark education, which on the outside looks like you just basically sit in chairs, there is no touching, there's no physical intimacy if you like. But my God, it's intimate. I mean, they are so intrusive with the questions. So there I learned how to work with talk therapy, how to demand intimacy with my questions, how to ask questions, when to ask it, when not to ask it. So that's a good way. Yeah, that's all I can think of at the moment, you know.
I can add to
MDMA, yes.
Yeah, MDMA I'm sure can be great in the right setting with the right intention.
MKP, yes, all of absolutely, Mankind Project, or Woman Within for women, yes.
I think a lot of what's Sanna? What's Sanna? Yeah.
Vipassana.
I mean, for me, it's been a lot of the shamanic journey. I've been living in the jungle. I've sat maybe 140 ayahuasca ceremonies. It taught me a few things about being intimate with myself. So ayahuasca for me is a fantastic and vipassana, yeah. And for me, a big breakthrough has been the sexual healing, conscious sexual healing with teachers who are in alignment and integrity, who could hold space for me to go really, really deep in myself, in high states of pleasure, in feeling my longings, my desires, without them acting upon that to me. So, that's been a great teaching for me. Go kind of where you feel this is a little scary.
Yes.
And make sure that the teachers are having a good reputation. Because it's a bit different from each and one of us, you know, if we need more intensity, if we need more, you know, safety and a slower pace. And And also, if we often go for more intensity, it's also very helpful to go for the slower parts at sometimes as well. You know, we can become addicted to intensity. I'm guilty to that. So yeah, but sexual healing is absolutely fantastic, I would say, because we really get to meet the fears and the longings and the depths of our hearts.
There is a question coming in saying, "Are you always dressed in both roles?" Let me unmute you so we actually clarify. Ortrun, can you hear us? Hello, Ortrun.
If you can't hear us, can you write, do you mean dressed in within sexual healing sessions? What do you mean?
Let's mute.
Yes, I can hear you. Okay.
So what did you mean? Can you type in and explain the question a little bit more so we can answer it?
So I can respond to that. I believe what you mean is in a sexual healing session, for example, or when you work with pleasure. So when I work with pleasure, I used to be only dressed in my underwear. I was very intimate with my clients, as hugging, I was rubbing, I was massaging. Are you one point without clothes? Okay. So my clients were often were always naked if they wanted to. I was in my underwear. And I think that is a beautiful way of meeting. I couldn't be naked. It wouldn't work for me at all. But it's a beautiful way of creating intimacy, but always with healthy boundaries, always with strict boundaries from the start, and a lot of compassion and clarity. So you don't create any stickiness or that somebody's falling in love with you or so on. Then you want to reflect that back to them so they become more intimate with themselves.
For me, my answer is completely different. I was never naked in my sessions, and none of my clients are ever naked. We're all dressed. Because I don't work with sexual energy. I don't offer sexual healing. I mean, actually I do, but not physically on a physical body. So there is no reason for us to be naked. So we're always fully dressed. So,
was that responding to your question, Otrun? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we do have time. If you really want, there is another question coming in. If you want it, please ask. Otherwise, we're going to say thank you, love you, and leave you for today. Let's see. Anybody raising the hand or anybody writing anything?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and also really encourage you to, or I would love to see you again. We're going to have more webinars, right?
This is the last one of this series.
Yeah.
So we did 4. You can see all 4 if you haven't seen them before. We recorded them. They're on the website. They're also on YouTube.
We have also a few courses coming up, but I'm sure you already know that.
I didn't understand this from Agatha. Have you worked with Earth? Agatha, let me just unmute you 1 second. Okay, you can talk. Let us hear you.
Intimacy today, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the name in English, but it's vulvodynia. It's a pain related to vulva area. But maybe it's not the question for today.
Thank you so much for another session.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. When is next webinar?
When is the next webinar? We just discussed today. We did 1 a week, and now we're probably going to do 1 a month from now on. So we're going to unmute everybody to say goodbye. We're all unmuted now, so we can actually hear you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Everybody say
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.